Welcome to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show, and thank you for being with us. Our topic, leadership, focuses on leaders such as yourselves. We believe that leadership is a skill that can be learned through practice and awareness. It is our hope that our conversation will help you become more reflective when it comes to your own leadership practices and enable you to leave a positive legacy. Our very special guest is Jasmin Nuhic. Jasmin is a senior partner of My EIDP, an organization with passion of helping professionals reach their full potential and achieve their career objectives. Jasmin is author of 2 books, as well as speaker, facilitator, and coach. Jasmin holds undergraduate degree in science and 2 master's degrees in business and in executive leadership. He is certified in coaching, ethical leadership, the OZ principle, and cross-cultural intelligence. As a people leader, Jasmin has global experience in leading and developing individuals and teams. Jasmin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Biana. Glad to be here.
Jasmin, I'm very excited to have you on my show. You are people leader. You also have a book out called Leaders Develop First. And I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about yourself. What is People Leader and about the book?
So thanks for having me and thanks for asking the question. So the Leaders Develop First, it's actually my second book that came as a result of my first book named It Starts and Ends with the EIDP. EIDP standing for the Executable Individual Development Plan. So as the first book came out, there was a need for people leaders to also understand how they can help their employees to develop their professional plans. So the book is really a homegrown from my personal experiences and working with different professionals, as well as coaching different professionals. And ultimately, it was also complemented with the recent research that came through many different sources from universities as well as professional organizations that talks about the importance of developing your employees or developing your peers and then developing yourself as a leader first. Hence, the title is Leaders Develop First is because the intent there is that they do both. They develop themselves first, but also they think about the development of their people first.
That's very interesting. So just for the folks who are not familiar, what is actually Executable Professional Development Plan? Like, is it a roadmap? Is it a coaching structure? What is it?
Yeah, the whole principle there is actually 9 steps of creating and executing your executable individual development plan. So let me emphasize 2 things. One, it is a roadmap. It is a flow chart. It actually looks like a flow chart, very much structured in a sense from how do you go about making a decision that you want to have individual development plan in place, and then going to kind of future state, going to decision state, current state, and ultimately ending up with your development plan that is executable, meaning that you are actually creating something that you can execute. It's not just a check in a box. It's not a corporate requirement. It's something that you can own and execute as you continue to grow your career and then ultimately expedite some of the execution of your professional development so you can hopefully reach a certain level of job enrichment and job enlargement, as well as reach your full potential and achieve your career objectives.
And this is for folks that are not put on any work improvement plan or corrective action. This is just for regular employee who wants to further develop.
Indeed. While it can be used across a whole spectrum of different employees and depends on their performance and different stages of their career, it is truly intended for somebody who is looking for ways to develop themselves, who is intentionally trying to work on maximizing their own potential and achieving their career objectives, while at the same time not compromising their personal values and personal beliefs so that I can be happy at work and happy at home.
So is this something that you can do on your own or you need to have a coach?
It's not required to have a coach. It is obviously recommended from the standpoint that if you've never done it before, it will tremendously help. If you go to school and quite a few managers and people leaders that have maybe master's degrees, maybe have MBAs, and they may learn a lot about the business, financials, business ethics, but not many schools, if any, would teach actually how to help your employees develop themselves. And so what happens is a lot of professionals are left on their own to develop their own professional development plans. And quite frankly, my philosophy is it is my employees' responsibility to take responsibility of their own professional development plans. And what the book starts and ends with EIDP does, it provides a roadmap and gives you the how and puts you into place from the responsibility as well as from the ability to create your own professional development plan. Now, it would be highly desirable or highly suggested that a coach is hired or at least somebody is consulted, but it is not absolute requirement. My intent has always been that professional development plan should cost you minimum to develop, and it gives you maximum results by going through the process.
How does one create a plan? Can you give us steps?
Yes. So in my book on page 28, folks can see a flow chart, and it really starts with step number 1, which is really making a conscious decision that you want to make your EIDP. The step 2 is really focused on choosing your career, not a job path, meaning that how you approach your overall career path. The step number 3 is perform the research. And step 4 is evaluate your chosen career path. The step 5, which is the part of the current state, and the current state consists of step 5 and 6. 5 being learn who you are inside that you cannot see in the mirror. Once you understand that, you move to the step 6. And step 6 is really to learn where you stand, external view. Once you complete steps 5 and 6, you are transitioning out of the current state into the final state, which is also called EIDP. Hence, that's why the book is called It Starts and Ends with EIDP. And the steps in the EIDP state are step 7, which is identify and acknowledge the gaps. Step 8 is really just to write down and commit to your IDP to make sure you're actually driving towards that goal and towards those objectives. And most importantly, that you are committing yourself to execute the plan that you just put in place. And finally, the very last step is a step 9, and that is where you kick off the execution of the EIDP so that you can reach your full potential and achieve your career objectives.
And also, I would assume, Jasmin, that this changes because what you thought that you want to do in your 30s is not what you actually want to do in your 40s. So I would assume that you continue tweaking and changing your development plan.
Yeah, so that's actually a great point. A lot of folks will say, well, first of all, it changes too much, so why put a plan in place in the first place? And then there's other people that say, well, without a plan, how can you know where you're going to go? So you have to have a plan. It's 100% to be as detailed as you can be about it. I'm in between. I follow the 80-20 rule. I believe if you truly invest yourself and make an effort to create your executable individual development plan. And if you have somebody who can actually help you from the leaders develop first standpoint, I believe you're actually going to be able to do enough research and understand at least 80% directionally where you're going to go. Because while your career objectives, your circumstances may change, your personal values, personalities won't change. Most people don't change those things. And so later on, opportunity may present itself. That sounds good, but if you have a plan in place and you know that your plan is based on your personal values and your personality, yes, I can go for this title, I can go for this position, I can go for this company, and I may be happy for 3 days because my pay is going to be higher, my title is going to be higher. But in the long term, I'm going to find myself compromising my values and my personality, and I'm actually not going to be happy about it. So that 20% is going to change because of circumstances, but about 80% of that should be actually pretty stable.
So what you're saying to us, core values will never change.
Yeah. So there's enough research out there, right, that says that those things don't change over time. If you value your family and if you value your community, most likely you're going to value that for the rest of your life. One of my favorite authors was late Stephen Covey. One of the things he said was, preserve the core, change everything else, because you have to understand what your values are. You cannot compromise those, but you can negotiate everything else. So obviously, he's got a far more experience and he has got a far more research done. And so I borrowed some of his work and some of his words to be able to reinforce that message in my books as well.
So would you say that if we haven't really figured out our values, that retention is a real struggle? Like folks change jobs so frequently. Is that because they themselves have not done personal development plan, or because the companies are just not invested to invest in their employees?
So that's direct conflict. So the conflict really between the two things is there's a large number of employees believe that it's company's responsibility, it's their manager's responsibility to develop them. And so they don't see that in the companies, and the companies don't do enough of it. And so they leave. They change jobs, they go from company to company, and then after fourth or fifth company, they realize that most companies don't do that. And at some point in time, they realize it is not the company's responsibility. It is your responsibility to create your development plan. Now, I'm going to give you another example very quickly. Once again, somebody in my network reached out to me. It's been about 2 years now. They went from one company to another. About third, fourth company later, they realized that they were not getting any quote-unquote professional development. There was no sound professional development programs in place. But from their perspective that's what the company should do. That the company should give the employee their development plan. And so I got a call from him one afternoon, and he says, hey, Jasmin, I need your help with that thing that you do, the program that you have. I'm like, well, can you tell me more? What are you talking about, the program, right? And he says, well, that IDP stuff. Like, I'm so frustrated. I just had a one-on-one with my manager, and I came out of his office very frustrated because, once again, he did not give me my professional development plan. He couldn't tell me in which areas I should go ahead and develop in order for me to reach my full potential, achieve my career objectives. And he says, I'm done with it. I want to create my plan, and I want to just go leave the company. Well, I said, first of all, I think he did you a favor because he shouldn't give you a development plan. And second thing is we start talking about the responsibilities. And the long story short, ultimately trying to educate him that it is his responsibility to come up and to create his development plan. So now when he creates that, he can go to his manager and say, hey, this is the plan. This is what I want to execute. This is what I believe based on my personality, based on my values, based on my research. This is the direction I need to go. Do you support it? Can you support me on this? Do you see organization having a need for somebody like this? And if the answer is yes, then you got a great spot. You have a company manager and employee that are having clear responsibility who does what, and everybody has a chance to reach the maximum benefit. But if the manager says, no, that's not where the company is going to go, I don't think you should go that, I don't agree with that, I don't want to support you, then you can take it to the next employer. Once he created, and then it took us about 9 months actually for him to develop the professional development plan. But once he had it, he went to his manager, had a one-on-one. First of all, the one-on-one was very, very fruitful because now they had something they could discuss. But also, quite frankly, it was not a good match. And so what he ended up doing was interviewing outside. When he went to interviews, he did something that I recommend anyone and everyone who creates these executable development plans is as you go into the interviews, you do get questions. But at the end of the interview, you usually get one more question, which is, okay, what questions do you have for us? And this individual took that great opportunity and he pulled out his professional development plan. And he says, folks, I hope you find me a good fit. But to be honest with you, I would like to understand if this company and this organization would be a good fit for me too. And they looked at it, they started having a discussion about it. And then first of all, they were impressed that he had an individual development plan. But most importantly, actually, that was the reasons why they had this position open in the first place. He was a good fit. And I just got a card from him not long ago. He's now living in California, working for a new employer, very happy, very good quality of life. And he sees that very much balanced life that he has between continuously developing themselves professionally, not compromising his personal values, and at the same time having time for himself. So all in all, the ownership and responsibility falls onto the individual. The organizations need to create an environment and provide the opportunity.
And I want to circle back. You talked a little bit about interview process. And you mentioned that the guy actually pulled out professional development plan and asked them if they can look into that. Is this something that you think everyone should do, even if you're going for a very, very junior role?
So let me just say this. Actually, so his words, not mine. This is what he said. He actually pulled up his plan and showed it to the future employer. And he said, would you support this? Right. So that's the only question he asked. And then they look at it, they're like, oh, it's a nice plan. And then so they started having a conversation about having the plans and supporting it. So it ended up actually being something that this manager was, once again, had a hard time retaining his own people, a little bit because it's California, right? But the second thing is part of it was just because folks were leaving, and probably leaving because he was not able to do the leaders develop first mentality to help employees develop themselves, even though the employee should own the responsibility. So to answer your question, the target audience for my books and for my approach is somewhere between 5 and 25 years of experience in professional career. So you do need to be able to walk into an organization and learn the basics. And that may take 5 years on some people, may take less, some people may take longer. And then another thing is when I say it's no more than 25 years of experience, not because it doesn't apply, because I will tell you again, I could give you another example where a female CEO made a comment about importance of creating a professional development plan, even though she did it very, very late in her career. But at some point in time, after about 20, 25 years, we are set in our ways and we kind of enjoy a certain level of economical status, for lack of a better term, right? We have certain level of salaries, we have certain level of networks, and it becomes too much of a drastic change to make a change. Now, has it happened? Absolutely does. I mean, there's a whole book written on top of that. It's called Aha Moment. So if you look at the whole book is the premises of that is how people reach certain levels after 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, and then they find themselves having an aha moment. They realize that they've been on the wrong track for a long time. Or what Stephen Covey would say, they've been climbing a wrong ladder. And then abruptly, they just quit and literally spend some time with the family or do charity events or become a pastor in a church. It's just a completely different thing that they realize they've been missing. They've been having this internal conflict that they finally came up on the surface. The same is true also if people step out of the professional life for any reason, either because they want to do the missionary work for a couple of years, they want to have a family, they have to relocate for a number of reasons from one city to another, and one of the spouses ends up working while the other stays at home until they get the situation and all that stuff. There is nothing wrong with coming back in that and actually reinforces the message that you do indeed know your values. So going into the role or applying for a role ends up being a pretty straightforward for somebody who you interviewed them and say, hey, not only that I have a plan, but let me give you an example where I actually stepped out of the way and I put my career on hold because I wanted to focus on my personal values and give me a chance to reinforce those values before I came back and applied for a job here. Let me just give you a quick example on the values because, once again, it's very important to me personally because of my background. In more than one occasion, I was presented with opportunities that in one case, very early in my career, I made enough money, but then I had a recruiter call me and say, hey, here's a project, here's a company, XYZ, not too far away, you don't have to relocate, but they're willing to pay you 25, 50% more than you're making right now. And by the way, once the project is over, there's going to be a huge significant bonus that will be paid out to the project, right? There's a commitment. So as a 20-plus year old professional, 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years into my career, you would think, yeah, this is it. I mean, I can go do this for 3, 4 years. I'm going to walk away twice as much money, potentially some of the promotions in the process, and it's obviously a highly visible project. It checks all boxes that traditionally people would look for. And then I said no to it just upon purely personal value standpoint. The company and the product that we're making was not something that I personally want to promote, want to be part of, want to support, want to encourage people to buy and use. And so the answer just came out of me. Most recently, another example is I had opportunity to make a move and I had 2 different roles. Both of them would be considered upper roles. However, one was a little bit less paid, less travel, and type of industry than I believe it serves humanity and is sustainable. The other one is a highly reputable. However, it will put me on the road more often than I would prefer. And then ultimately, which will compete with my personal values. But on the short term, it would actually put my family in a very tough situation, very short term, where my wife and kids will have to pick up a lot of stuff on their own than I normally would take care of. And once again, if I just look at the numbers, no question. I know exactly what should I take. If I look at the name of the company, no problem. This one company versus the other, one is known worldwide, the other one not so much. All of that was one-sided. However, once I put that stuff on the side and I say, okay, where I'm going to be happy going to and coming back from work, where I'm going to actually be able to continue to execute my own professional development plan. And the answer being at the company B, and it took me no time to sign off on it and say yes to them and move on. And today's date, the other guys keep asking me what they could have done better to make the deal sweeter for me, and they don't understand. They couldn't buy it. There's nothing that they could do, but it's my professional development plan, it's my personal values that are built into my professional plan that made me believe that I will be better off with the other organization.
So to summarize it, basically, the professional development plan makes you a more reflective and more balanced leader.
Absolutely. That is the essence of executable individual development plan. If you look at the steps 1 through 9, the first 3, 4 steps are focused on what I call future state, to kind of dream forward, to think about the future, to think about what you want to do in the future, that kind of stuff. But you do a lot of research. What does it take to achieve it? So, for example, I'm going to walk through very quickly, right? If you look at the 3 core career paths, subject matter expertise, individual contributor, right? Project management role, and then the people leadership role, right? Or path, right? So if you look at those 3 paths, right, you should be thinking, which path do I want to take? Now, at this point, you may not know that. But for the sake of our discussion today, I'm just going to pick middle one. I'm just going to say that project management role is the one I want to go to, right? I think that's what the right role is for me. So you start researching. What does it take to be successful? And that's one of my top 3 steps is what does it take to be successful in project management, right? And this is where you start looking into different job descriptions, different companies, what their project managers do. You start reading about biographies and about different projects that were successful and maybe not so successful. You start researching those things and finding out more and more what does it take to do this. And then at one point in time, you're going to actually ask yourself, and that's what I call decision state, do I really want to do this? Because some of the things you're going to find out as you do the research, you're going to find out that the most successful project managers had to go and get a PMP certificates. They had to study constantly. Their projects are changing constantly, so they have to learn about the products. They have to travel at least 50% of their time to visit different sites and different people. Their teams are changing, so the team dynamics are different, so that they have to be hugely influential. It requires a lot of negotiation, a lot of diplomacy, right? And then once they find all that out, they can ask themselves, is this me? Do I really want to do this? And this is decision state. Now, here's the deal. Let's say that the answer is yes. I'm still interested. I still want to be a project manager. I still want to grow into that role. Now that you kind of go into the bottom 3 steps, and that's where you start understanding your current state. And once again, my whole approach comes from Stephen Covey and his work, and from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he says, begin with end in mind. So you kind of start where you want to go to, and now you come down to the current state, and then you start doing the MBTI. You start doing like a DISC profile. You start doing 360 feedback. That will give you opportunity to actually get what I call internal mirror as well as external view, to understand who you are, what your beliefs are, what is your personality. And then you may find yourself that somewhere in that process, you're going to find out that maybe you're more introvert than extrovert. And you're going to find a lot of these things internally. You're going to find out who you are, what people think, and how people perceive you already. And once you compile that information, then you can actually map that out against the future state, against the research that you did up front, and say, is there a match? Because if I find out there's 80, 90% of a match, then probably that career path will be probably good for me. But if I start finding out, you know what, I remember talking to so-and-so during my discovery interview when I was looking into the future state, and the project manager told me, hey, you know what, one of the things that you're going to do is working with people in Asia, in Europe, and you start thinking like, yeah, that's true, but it also means I got to work 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, 8 o'clock in the evening, because those are the time differences. So every night when I'm supposed to put the kids to bed, I got to go on a phone call. So I'm not very energized. It doesn't put a smile on my face. Or just a pure capabilities perspective. It could be just somebody says, hey, in order for you to be able to be successful, you got to understand and manipulate a lot of spreadsheets. And you say, wow, no, that doesn't fit me. And the last but not least is maybe in order for you to be successful, you have to have a PMP certificate and you have to have an MBA, and you are one of the people that just doesn't have that. Now you're going to invest 3 to 4 to 5 years of your life, but you don't see yourself necessarily being energized by doing that. And so once you find all those things, then you can find out maybe project management is not my role. Maybe individual contributor is my role, subject matter experts. So instead of being a project manager or people leader, I want to become the best I can be at something.
So know thyself.
Exactly. Very important. Very important.
Any final thoughts?
No, just I would say this. Anybody who is listening and struggling in their careers, trying to improve their quality of life, trying to improve their work-life balance, struggling to define what their career objectives are in the first place, or ultimately, even if they have a clear picture what they want to go to, but they don't know how, one of the best things I will obviously recommend it is my book is called Starts and Ends with EIDP. It's available on Amazon. It's available worldwide. And for folks that are people leaders in the people leadership role, but truly wants to develop others, wants to invest and give opportunities for other people to develop either their direct reports or their peers or people from their network or themselves. The book is called Leaders Develop First, where as a leaders, you put yourself first from development perspective, but you also put people that you can develop first as well. And then you can work on your professional development so that you can reach your full potential and achieve career objectives. Both books are available on Amazon. They're also available through my website, JasminNuhic.com. And then I'm always open for folks that want to check out my articles on LinkedIn, network on LinkedIn as well. I hope this helps as many people as possible reach their own full potential and achieve their career objectives.
And one more time, people can contact you through your website, right?
That would be the best. It's Jasmin.Nuhic@myeidp.com. That's direct email, LinkedIn. If you just want to network and follow me and read my articles, or Amazon authors page for my books and my publications, those will be three best ways to get a hold of me. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jasmin, for being a guest.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. I hope your listeners benefit from our conversation today, and that everybody have a blessed and positive rest of the day.
Thank you. Our special guest was Jasmin Nuhic, author, speaker, and a coach. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show. Remember that you're all leaders in your own rights, and the impact that you're meant to achieve starts with small acts of kindness, curiosity, and generosity. Please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you again, and until next time.